All right, everyone, welcome to Quantum Acacias. My name is Dee Dee, and today we are going to do an adventures in the Astrals. I don't think that I've done this one on this channel. I have an old channel, and I want to see if I can get it done in 20 minutes because there's a TV show that I want to watch, and I'm trying to stick to time because I want time to stick to me, okay, and come with the money, okay? Okay, anyways, so if you have not checked out my Aquarius Watch the Signs in Language video, please make sure that you do. There's a lot of codes, and sometimes I'm not even sure about what the codes are until like some time has passed. And so today it seems like it is connecting into frogs. And frogs could also be looked at as freeing the OG, okay? The OG could be the old goddess. And I was listening to this guy on YouTube today, and he was talking about how amphibians were really, really significant to ancient calendars. And it reminded me of a QHHT session where I was helping out in South America, and I was a amphibian frog-like being. So every time I see frog, I really like to pay attention to it. Well, anyways, when I went to go see like what amphibian beings are connected to Chinese civilization, Nuwa pops up, and I thought this would be a perfect time to talk about my adventures in the Astrals with Nuwa. Okay, so this one is actually pretty simple and easy and to the point, so hopefully it's not gonna take too long for me to say it. But I'm also feeling like the next one I'm going to talk about is my vision of meeting a spirit guide and the secrets of of different dimensions, Syrians, and triangle portals. And one thing I will say about it before I get to that, the next video or whatever, is that these portals, and this is kind of code, but these portals are smart portals, and they're smart on a whole nother level. So there's not a way that something can attach itself to you, another being, let's say, can attach itself to you and go through the portal. Now, they might be able to attach something to you, but they cannot go through the portal, okay? So I feel like I want to say that, but that's going to be in the next adventure in the Astrals. Hopefully I'm going to remember it. Okay, so let's talk about this dream, okay? So this dream, I don't remember exactly when I had this, but I think it was like 2019 or 2020, but I really feel like it was like the end of 2019. It could have been November, actually, 2019. November has been coming up a lot. It's 11:44 right now. So I remember I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about Lyra. And I think we were talking about like that we felt like there could be a past life on Lyra. And I think both of us had downloaded like this astrology app, which today I've been talking to ChatGPT about astrology. So especially like the armillary, what is that called? Armillary globe. Anyways, and she was pointing out to me where Lyra was. And at that point in time, I was just like not really getting the connection to Lyra. And I was like, okay, maybe there is one, and maybe I just don't really remember it. Now, I do have connections to cat beings, but more on the Syrian side, which is also connected to Nomos, which are said to be amphibious beings as well. Also connected to dolphins, okay? But anyway, so I was like, I'm not really feeling like the Lyra connection, and so I'll just wait to see how it plays out. Well, then the Lyra connection came. So I think it was probably either later in November, but it definitely wasn't. If it wasn't November, it was a very short time period. So not more than 2 months later, I ended up having this very interesting dream. And in this dream, I was traveling through a wormhole, okay? Now, consciously that I can remember, I don't remember traveling through a wormhole in this type of visualization. before in a dream. So it was pretty much like if you've seen Finding Nemo, and they're on that great current in the water where they meet the turtle and I cannot even remember the turtle and his son's name, but you know, like the cool surfer turtle. And they're on like East Wallaby, Sydney or something like that, and they're trying to find the current or something like that. That's exactly what the I was about to say whirlpool. That's exactly what the, oh my gosh, what pool is it? Child, which pool is this? The the wormhole. It's not a pool, it's a wormhole. Okay. The wormhole, okay, and it feels and looks exactly like that. So I'm just waking up in the middle of this current. That's exactly what it feels like, because I have unfortunately been in two very strong currents in the ocean before, and somehow I was able to survive both of them. So that's exactly what it felt like, you being pulled through a current. And so this is like, I'm literally catching consciousness in the middle of the current. I'm like, whoa, because if you have been in a current, you know, it moves very fast and it is a very strong force. And so like my head is down, you know, like when you're in like a you know, amusement park ride and like you're going down, it's like hard for you to keep your head up. That's exactly what it felt like. So I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like trying to pick my head up, and I finally realized, and I immediately knew it, even though I hadn't seen it in this way before. I was like, oh, okay, I'm in a wormhole in the cosmos right now. Just casually, you know, just another day, just in the cosmos in a wormhole. It's cool. And so I'm like, what is going on? So I'm kind of orienting myself. I'm like, oh, this is my Lyran self. Now, I did not see myself as a lion being, but I knew I was Lyran though. And it was like I was in the best way I can describe it is like a consciousness bubble with other Lyrans, okay? And we were like a group of Lyrans. And the way that our conscious was set up was almost like we're all one bubble. We're all one bubble, but there are semi-leaders, and the leaders are on the edge of the bubble. And more of like the younger people, or, you know, people that are helping out in different ways that are not, you know, just necessarily like leadership or government or whatever, are in the center of the bubble. And so in a sense, we did have separate consciousness, because we could tell like where everybody was in the bubble, but we were definitely moving as one bubble. Now, it also could have appeared as a bubble because we were moving so fast. That's also a possibility, that we weren't a bubble, but everybody was just moving so fast it seemed like it. But that's how I interpreted it, was that we were just like a Lyran bubble moving through the cosmos, okay? And so I'm like, what are we doing? And so everybody is kind of like orienting. So I wasn't the only one kind of orienting, you know, because sometimes in dreams you're coming in and someone's already talking to you and you're like, what? And you have to kind of figure out where the conversation was. You have to kind of pull the memories and stuff. But this one, everybody was kind of like, I don't even know. So eventually we remember that we are being summoned somewhere else in the cosmos from our home in the Lyra constellation, okay? So they are utilizing the wormhole to call the energy to them, okay? And April 13th could be significant, or 4/13 could be significant, okay? And so we're like, okay, who is pulling us? And so anyways, we're kind of in the middle of the journey. And we're kind of talking to each other, the quote unquote leaders are talking to each other, and we're like, okay, you know, this is a really strong current. This is a really strong pull. And it's a little bit, a teensy bit disrespectful, because, which is something that I say in general, when you are, you know, certain people are doing things like calling on spirits and stuff like that, a summoning could be a tad bit disrespectful. A nice invitation would suffice, but summoning, you got to make sure it's a very, very good tempered being. because that could be seen as a little bit aggressive, especially if they're unaware of you reaching out to them. Now, some are quantum, and so, you might be reaching out to them, and they have maybe already put it into place, but still, just, I wouldn't use that as a first resort, right? Because if they already know that you're coming, then you really just kind of have to like sit tight and wait till they show up. So you actually the one that got the invitation. Do you know what I'm saying? Anyway, so I'm like, okay, this is a really strong current. We're already in the midst of it. Obviously, it was really powerful. And so in order to break this connection, we would have to put out a lot of aggressive and forceful energy. Okay. And so that could potentially send us into some type of war with this unknown energy, at the moment unknown, that is summoning us somewhere. And it also could impact like the cosmos, where we are putting off that much energy. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we're like, okay, we would have to discharge this energy with an aggressive one, and we're not sure how that's going to impact the cosmos, because we didn't even know where we necessarily were in the cosmos. We were moving so fast. And so we're like, okay, do we want to take that approach? Or do we want to just kind of see where we go and then kind of decide when we get there, and then we could always go back home, okay? And so anyway, so we decide that we're just going to ride the wave, okay? We're just going to ride the wave. We don't know exactly what's going on. Maybe they didn't know that this was an aggressive approach. We'll just see what happens. So we get there. Okay, so literally it's almost like we're riding this highway, and the highway kind of like this current kind of drops off. Like, I don't know the distance, but like you could see Earth in the distance. And when we see Earth, we know that's exactly where the pull is coming from. Without a doubt, that's where the pull is coming from. And so it was almost like oh, okay, like it's Earth again. That's what it felt like, oh, okay, of course, it's Earth, like they're always pulling on stuff they literally have no clue about, but it's cool. Like, we know these guys, like it's fine, guys, we know them. And so there was also, again, this kind of pause before we got to Earth. Now, there was still a pull, but that pull utilizing this cosmic wormhole, like a highway, was not as strong as the highway. So we again allowed ourselves to be pulled there to see what it was that they were looking for. Okay. Now, as we start to get closer to Earth and it comes into visual, we start to see, and this is just what I'm going to say. Okay. Cause I don't know what the history or anything like that necessarily is. But we'll get into it. I'm going to tell you what I visually saw, okay? What I visually saw was that Earth was partially gaseous. Oh, child, is that correct? Earth was partially a gas or like vapor-like planet, okay? So it was not completely solid, okay? And this is the same thing I was thinking about with Jupiter, because, and I'll talk about that at a later date, but I've definitely seen Jupiter being terraformed. And I was talking to my husband about that, and he was like, but Jupiter is a gas giant. I was like, yeah, well, I mean, sometimes water is a gas. And so we just figure out how to get it to a different state. How do we make gas into a liquid, and then a liquid into a solid? And then that would be how you terraform Jupiter and make it solid to land on. So anyways, it was partially solid, but a lot of surrounding it, I don't know if it was necessarily clouds, but we'd say like something like clouds, and part of it was vapory. Okay. Now that, child, I almost dropped my phone. Okay. So anyways, it's 11:55 now. So the next thing that I ended up seeing past that was that there were, listen to me, okay? There was a very prominent female hovering in the air over what I was interpreting as modern day Australia, okay? And this, I would say, was somewhere near Queensland, Australia. Okay. And she was hovering over this structure that looked to me like an old brick, or not brick. I'm just thinking about the cathedral churches, and a lot of them are made of bricks. But it looked like a cathedral style, not Gothic because it wasn't dark, but it was like this cathedral style, like clay type of building. That's what I would say. But it was very tall. And she was hovering around it. Okay. Now, this woman to me specifically looked very Ethiopian, Somalian, Sudanese. Okay. And if you've seen people in that region of East Africa, then you know that they have a certain type of appearance where Ethiopian people, it's, they have a certain type of appearance. And so when they say they're Ethiopian, like, oh yeah, I could definitely see that. But also Somalian, Sudanese, I would put into similar facial features as well. So they looked in that kind of region. Okay, and like I said, they were Queensland, Australia. That's where I saw. Like whatever that area was, they were around that area. Okay. Now, she was pretty solid at the top to like the knees. Okay. And then the bottom of her was more of this kind of vapor, kind of particle kind of thing. So she didn't have defined feet. Okay. And we just interpreted that as she had not solidified her whole body yet, which during this time period, whenever this time period was, that was not uncommon. So it wasn't like, oh, she's not ascended enough or anything like that. Like that was just like the stage of development of the planet at that moment. And everywhere in the cosmos hadn't solidified everything. I don't know if we were necessarily even solidified. I don't know. But I also noticed that she had a male figure who was less dense than she was, okay? And I'm not probably using like the correct scientific terms of this, but I'm talking about like, when you look at a person, there's depth and mass and things like that. She had a lot of depth and mass to like the top part to like her knees, and then the rest was more like what we would see as like an apparition or a spirit, and it was more kind of ghostly, or like sometimes when they show genies and they have those kind of wispy like tails, it wasn't necessarily a tail, it was kind of more loosely combined particles, I guess. But she had a male behind her who was definitely more like an apparition. Now, this apparition did not mean that he was quote unquote dead. Okay. That's not what it meant. It meant that he had not formed a certain level of mass and density for his particles to be more, like 3D. So like in present day, which is interesting, people would see him and assume that he is a ghost. If they have those type of eyes to see apparitions and stuff, they would look at him and think that he's a ghost. But he was not an apparition. He just was in transition to becoming more dense and creating particles that were more densely packed and layered, or, however that goes. I don't know all the science to that, okay? And so anyways, and he was definitely much more of the docile being, okay? That's what I would say. Is that the correct word though? But I think so, because she definitely was a firecracker. So she definitely was very brash and very domineering, and he was more subservient to her. Okay. Now, I don't know if I would say that this was like a consort situation, or if this was mother and child. I can't really remember necessarily. But what I would say is that it was not a super loving type of situation in the way that we think about it today. And that's why I kind of feel like it's hard to put the emotions there, because I don't know if it felt kind of like he was a little bit more than a worker. That's what it felt like. So anyway, she was the one that was sending out this call to the universe. And why she was sending out this call to the universe, which is the really interesting part. Okay. Okay, I'm just telling a story. Like, relax. I'm just telling a little story. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just telling a story. Why she was sending out this call is because she wanted to infuse Lyran energy into her new creation. Yes, she was creating new beings. And these new beings, no shade to her partner, I guess, but she wanted them to have a certain level of moxie, okay? They need a certain level of moxie to be able to handle this kind of new wave of conditions that were coming to the planet, which I'm assuming meant more density to the planet. So she wanted them to have a little bit more moxie, and I guess Lyrans get the job done. And so that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to infuse the Lyran spirit into her new clay creations. There were definitely clay beings, brown clay beings, okay? Now, the other interesting thing about this is that the way that she was thinking about this Lyran energy is kind of very similar, I would say, to how a lot of people think about manifesting on a full moon or a new moon, that you kind of esoterically put your energy out there, and then you do whatever ceremony or whatever, and that the energy of the new moon is charging it, whether by moonlight or something like that. But there was not a conscious, necessarily awareness that there were beings in Lyra. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's very much like how voodoo works, where you're sending out this SOS that you're trying to do something. And so the universe responds, and they start sending you literal energy waves that are actually full of consciousness, conscious beings from these places that are coming. And so now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, we're probably actually sending out SOSs to the moon, and probably what's actually helping us with these moon intentions are actually probably moonlight consciousness, which is actual conscious beings within the moonlight that are coming to help us, because that's what was going on in this dream. And so I remember thinking, as we were getting closer to her, like, okay, she's gonna like infuse us into these new creations and not even realize that this is not just like sugar, spice, and everything nice. Like, she's infusing other dimensional beings into these clay beings. And that was kind of like my last thought, and I was kind of like, how do I feel about that? And so when I woke up from it, usually if I don't know what's going on or like who all these players are and stuff like that, I'll usually just ask, like, who was this? And I heard Nuwa. Okay, I heard Numa, Numa. Now, when I went to search Nuwa, the first person that popped up was Nuwa. Nuwa, Nuwa. And then she had a counterpart who was seen as a more docile counterpart, and she was also considered to be the shaper of humanity. So I'm going to read a little bit about her. I feel like I've done another reading, like another, I don't know if it was in a reading or astral or something like that, about her. And I feel like I did read this, but I'm going to do it again. And if I have already posted this, you never hear the same story twice. So, okay. All right. So yeah, I'm going to read you a little bit about it. Okay. So in Chinese mythology, Nuwa, maybe that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. But in my dream, they said, when I came out of the dream and asked, they said her name was Numa. Okay, so like a new mother. Okay. In Chinese mythology, I'm just going to pronounce it Nuwa. Forgive me if that's not correct. But Nuwa is considered to be the first being with the ability to procreate. Oh, and is the creator of all mankind. Ancient Chinese society was fiercely matriarchal. So Nuwa, being the mother of all humans, was considered a very important deity. She has a hand in a number of stories, but is most commonly associated with China's creation myth and for saving humanity by mending a hole in the sky after a great flood. Today, Nuwa is still a popular deity and is usually prayed to by women who need divine assistance with marital affairs or fertility issues. In art, she is usually depicted as a supernatural creature with a human face and a long serpentine body, but it is also sometimes simply drawn as a woman dressed in traditional Chinese hanfu. So yeah, if you have an interest in it or if that resonates, I definitely would check Nuwa out. Yeah, and like I said, she seemed to be around the area of Queensland, Australia. Actually, I think I even meditated after this dream, and that's how I found the place. I think they gave me coordinates in my mind, and when I looked up the coordinates, it landed right next to Queensland. So it wasn't directly on Queensland, but it was right next to it in the waters. So yeah, I hope that connects some dots or something like that. If you have any questions, you can send me an email. You can put a comment down below. Let us know your connections. If you've seen something like this, if you're connected to Lyrans and things like that. Like I said, I usually connect to serene constructs, and sometimes Orion constructs, sometimes Arcturus and Cassiopeia, and then some places that I don't think people have channeled yet. So the Lyran one was a little surprising because I never really kind of resonated with that. But life surprises you definitely. All right, friends. So make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, share the video with a friend, all of those fun things. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.